Tech entrepreneur turned senator Mark Warner is urging the Biden administration to boost the federal government's technology workforce as AI and AI-related challenges become more widespread. Senator Warner joins us this morning. Of course, he chairs the Senate Intelligence Committee, which held a hearing yesterday on the national security implications of AI. By the way, he's also a member of the Banking Committee, which is holding an AI-related hearing today. So it's front and center. Senator Warren also attended last week's gathering of tech executives on Capitol Hill. And Senator, let's just start with this. I think you are right to think that we need to have people who are better qualified, who have more experience in AI in terms of helping out government and trying to make sure that we're on top of all of this. But this is a serious problem in industry where they pay a heck of a lot more money than you do in government. How do you actually get the best and the brightest to help you come up with these very complex decisions, coming up with a policy that the top tech leaders themselves can't agree on and that they think is so vital?
Well, Becky, first of all, it was refreshing to see last week all 22 tech leaders, leaders of civil society, all saying there needs to be some level of government guardrails, maybe not full-on regulation. So there was agreement there. Secondly, I do think we're all kind of in the aftermath of the Oppenheimer movie this summer. I think we may need the kind of moonshot type experts all to come together to get this right. I can't think of an issue where the economics have changed more dramatically in the last 10 months. It used to be, who had the most data, who had the most compute would win. That meant the big players, or it did mean countries like China who have very offensive tools they can use with AI. But we've seen even that model change as the Llama model from Facebook was released into the wild. UAE has built a large language model literally for pennies on the dollar. The OSTP has acknowledged the economics have changed. So this is a constantly changing field. Let me quickly mention the area that I think your audience would be most interested in. The two areas where AI could have the most immediate disruptive effect are on our public elections, with a presidential year coming, the kind of deep fake and manipulation that can take place, watch out. The other is disruption in our public markets. And one of the things I've been thinking about is, when we think about disruption in our public markets from deep fakes and other tools, do we need a new law, or do we simply need a different set of penalties? We may have to kind of overweight this is one of the things we were talking about yesterday, overweight the penalties or the lower threshold of proof, because the effects of AI tools on the market in terms of deep fakes or launching fake SEC probes or undermining products could be so draconian. And the example I'd use is, we have murder is a crime if you shoot someone with a gun. Murder is an extra crime if it happens to be terrorist-caused murder. That's not a perfect analogy, but I do think we need to think about public trust in markets, public trust in elections, and both what is the standard, what is the penalty, and even if we agree that what is already a violation.
Look, I hear you on the Oppenheimer effect. I think everyone is thinking more broadly about what AI could unleash, just like nuclear weapons unleashed around the globe. But even if you get all the tech guys in the same room and they all agree that there should be some guardrails, that's more than we've ever done for social media or for privacy or anything on those lines. We haven't gotten anything done on that. But even if we can get our tech leaders to agree and our political leaders to agree, we're in a race with China. And this seems like a situation where, it's going to be a bad actor somewhere, maybe not in China, maybe elsewhere. We can't control what's happening outside our borders. How do we do this and make sure that we're not falling behind and not able to compete?
Great question, because as some of these large companies release these models, they are basically adopted, duplicated by other nation states. I would point out, though, that China actually has, for their domestic consumption, a very extensive set of regulations. The EU is moving. The Brits are moving in a different framework. The Japanese have a completely different approach, for example, on copyright on AI. I think the idea that we should sit back and do nothing, though, would make no sense. And that's, there are questions around watermarking and bias and copyright that are huge. And you're right. Our record so far, we've batted zero on social media. That's why I'm saying maybe where we ought to start is where the most immediate harm could come. Most citizens realize you could really have manipulation using AI tools on our public elections. I think most investors probably can realize we could have AI tools have massive disruption in confidence in our public markets. And maybe we could start with those two as a starting point.
Again, the question I would have, Senator, is in Illinois, are we allowed to have a cash bail for the terrorist murderer and not for the murderer, or do we have no cash bail for either one of those situations?
Joe,
do we just let them both go?
Joe, you are that expert on Illinois criminal law. I'm not going to ever second guess that.
No, you saw it, right? No cash bail. You can't do it anymore. Can't ask for cash. Everybody gets let go. Come on, this is your party.
Let's stick to the point of whether some guy comes in and launches a huge host of AI attacks against the markets. You guys would freak. And I'm simply saying there may be a need to overweight in some way, because the comments I've got, all right, Warner, markets and elections make sense. What's the there? Do we need new penalties? Or is this whole question of overweighting in terms of either lower threshold of proof or extra penalty? One answer. I don't know yet. But I do know doing nothing the way we did with social media is probably not a very good option.
Hey, Mark, while you're here, let's talk about a couple other issues. First up, the potential for a government shutdown. Do you think a shutdown happens? We had a reporter who joined us yesterday who's been covering this for a very long time who said he thinks the odds are 80% that you do get a shutdown for some period of time because of what he's hearing in the House.
Yeah, I don't see. We've all seen this movie many times. I cannot think of anything that is more self-inflicted pain. I can't think of anything fiscally more irresponsible, Joe. The law is we're going to pay all these federal employees anyway. So not only are people not working, but they're ultimately going to be paid, as well as the disruption for folks on air traffic controllers, people who are first responders, folks who want to use our national parks, shut down on medical research. I do not get the notion of some of these House Republicans who want to shut down the government. And obviously, Virginia's going to be hurt one of the most. It's like that same crowd who wants us to walk away from our assistance to Ukraine at the very moment that the rest of the world is counting on us to continue. And from some of these folks on Ukraine.